After we've built our Grails application, which we saw in an earlier video of customer order item and part, having built our domain objects and run the wizards to create the controllers and views, we're now ready to add business logic. So we'll discover precisely the requirements in a second. Let's go ahead and get busy with the actual procedures, beginning with the configuration procedure. So we're just going to follow through these steps, beginning with configure your data source. So what's a data source? Under the configurations, there's various things that Grails generates, including that. So we just open our install portion and copy this out. So that's this first step. Second step is we need some properties files. You can read more about these in the documentation here, but they tell us how to organize sessions and the like. So we're simply going to pick these up. Paste them there. The next thing we're going to need to do is fix some of the transactional annotations in the controllers. We'll do one, then I'll show you the other ones. So we're going to find the controllers. That makes the error go away. I repeat that for the next 4. The next step, after the transactional annotations, is I need to copy the business logic jars. So that's the lib folder. I just grab these. And as the last step, I'm ready to create my logic classes. I elected to create them as Groovy. So rather than under the generated portion, just go under here. So I'm going to begin just by copying those. They're under Groovy, so I get the business logic folder. Resolve these errors by adding the jars to my class path. Okay, now let's have a look at this business logic for just a moment. As you can see, there's one logic file. Get to this view, it might be better. One logic file corresponding to each domain class. So the rules or the logic inside is identified by annotations. So for example, this annotation says there's a constraint. So this is the constraint name that says customer name cannot be dummy. That was a little test I was doing. This annotation says that the customer's balance has got to be is defined as the purchase order's amount as shown. So essentially what we're doing here, looking at how I input these rules. So moving this over a bit so you can see. So here's our constraint rule. Here's our balance rule, the order total, is here. Line item amount is here. And in this case, the formula is expressed in the Groovy code. Notice in Groovy, unlike Java, you just say object.attribute times object.attribute. This is mixing integer and big decimal arithmetic, and Groovy takes care of all that, which is very nice of it. We should also understand that the line item object is essentially injected by the runtime, the business logic engine, that is. So you can refer to any of your bean attributes simply by the name of the object.attribute name. And this is the rule for obtaining the part's price. But this particular kind of rule is what we call a copy, meaning that the price is obtained only when I initially attach to the part, and subsequent changes to the part are not cascaded. You can design that either way. In this case, we want the business result that if you buy something on Monday, the price is unchanged. Your order is unchanged even if the price changes on Tuesday. If you wish, you can simply refer to part attributes here, times part.price, line item.part.price, and that would mean that the system would set up cascade and propagation to make sure that any changes to the part's price would be propagated. So it's a design or business choice you make. Business logic supports both. So these are our 5 rules, and we've seen them all. So that completes our configuration, and now what we want to do is try to run it. Now that we've defined our business logic, I've restarted the Grails application as before, debug as, and I've already created a product, a hammer for $10. I've created a customer similarly, and we can now add a purchase order. We can add a line item to that. Even though we're keying in 0 here, the business logic is going to compute the right values. And if we go back home and look at our customer, we see the customer's balance is 20. So the business logic has figured out how to multiply the price times the quantity, total that up to obtain the price from the part, multiply the price times the quantity, roll that up to the order total, and roll that up to the customer's balance. And of course, if we bought too much, that would trigger the credit limit check and an exception. So that's how you develop business logic with Grails and automated business logic. So to summarize, our key points are: first, the Grails app was virtually unaffected, with the exception of adding the transactional annotation. There was no change to our code. While this was a very simple application, this is the business logic equivalent of hello rules, just 5 rules. Hello world, I should have said. Yet we replaced 500 lines of code. Now think about that for a moment. Estimations for how much code a person can produce per day range from 12 to maybe 20 lines. That's weeks worth of effort with 5 rules that are totally apparent and transparent to business users. And it scales to more complex problems, such as a bill of materials solved with 5 rules, a payment allocation to a set of open orders, another 5 rules. These sorts of problems are at the high end of application complexity. And it also scales with respect to performance. The system is written to support enterprise-class applications, so rules are pruned based on the changes that actually occur in the transaction, saving all the SQL associated with it. And when rules do fire, they fire very efficiently. And for one of the examples of that is that when we do aggregations like sums and counts, we don't have to read the entire results set into memory or do SQL select sum of queries. They're done with adjustment logic. Things like that enable the applications to run as fast as a well-coded handwritten application. And to remember, these optimizations are repeated for every maintenance change, so performance stays high. Thanks very much for your time.